Hello and welcome to all my combo lords joining me there. Today or tonight, to a degree for me, this is 7 p.m. for me, which will be somewhat around the time that I'll be doing one of my streams per week, although maybe not on weekend. We will be doing mathematical tier lists. And to those who, for some reason, click on this video in the future and just want to see that, I will leave some timestamps, and it will be clear when we're on which tier lists, but I will leave chapters as well. At the beginning, as usual, I do like to do a little intro with my combo lords and see what's up with my people here. So first I'm going to expand, talk to the chat for a moment, and maybe list a few rare plans that are coming up in the combo classroom. So to get our chat up for a moment, thank you all for joining me so far. And what we are going to, and it is a good reminder that we just need to say things once or twice per thing, and that will maximize our chat experience. Now, what we're going to look at today, well, first, for a few intros about what's coming up in the combo classroom, and then it'll be clear when the tier lists are on the screen, but these are some interesting things coming. We are in the last weekend of February. That makes it close enough that when I pull open a March calendar here, we can see our days happening right here. This is tomorrow. Maybe today for some of you, tomorrow for me, and that's the 26th. And what's coming in March for combo class? Well, on approximately the first or second, there will be kind of, in a way, the last main combo class episode on the main channel of the main type, which is just a casual, relatively long lesson about a cool topic I want to teach you. And that topic is fun things that emerge from spelling numbers and looking at how numbers are spelled. And it's sort of a mix, the land between language and math, I mention it's like. And it might sound pretty basic, like, okay, well, we're going to spell out 1 or 0 through 9, and then we are going to have some system for coming up with the next ones and stringing together prefixes to make bigger ones. But we get into some interesting questions when you really dive into the possibilities or limits of that. And so some of that will be math, some will be language, but I would more so call it a language episode probably. And that'll be coming on one of these days, the first or the second. And then after that, I was going to be putting out an episode about reciprocal series. But I'm actually going to save that for one of the first episodes of grade -2, now that I'm seeing how the end of this grade is falling together properly. And I want to film part of that in a tunnel where I can emphasize going halfway and halfway and halfway somewhere. So I'm going to do a field trip to film that one in early grade -2 instead, because the episode after this is going to be my fun version of what I mentioned in a previous stream and on the Discord, but which I actually decided makes sense to be a main channel episode, the second last main channel episode of the grade only, of grade -1. And that'll be coming out on the 11th. And that is going to be, bear with me for those who, whether you've heard or not, you may hate this concept. I would hate it too if I didn't hear the details. A combo class final exam for grade -1 to test you on your grade -1 knowledge. Now that's just for my viewers who really like combo class and either have or intend to watch all the main channel episodes or most of them, which there's going to be 36 in grade -1 because that is 100 in base 6, the best base for humans. Now, with this second last episode, it will be an actual test. I will run you through the questions, and I will also have a written version that will be available to click. And I highly recommend doing this test, even though tests suck. I don't like tests. Never been a fan of how overly implemented they are in our society. They're not really a measure of someone's knowledge. However, they do force you to sometimes comb through a subject and make sure you have actually learned all the tools you need to and know how to apply them, and see, did I really accumulate all the knowledge I was supposed to in a certain little subject or topic or field or course or grade. And it also, if you don't know how to answer some, will reveal the holes in your knowledge that are important to know, the things that maybe you should study more. And so it'll be completely optional for those of you who don't want to take it in any form. You can watch this episode as a form of my funny version. It'll have some funniness of setting up a final exam, my thoughts on tests, which will be critical of tests, even though it's an episode of tests, and then a test that will contain some questions that you may expect, like how to write numbers in certain bases or examples of certain types of numbers with properties. But it also will contain some other surrealer stuff you'll see. And as for the questions that will be clearer to answer, know if you get right or wrong, those ones hopefully will be things that will, I'm designing it so it'll be knowledge that I've talked about probably on both channels, but definitely at least on the main channel, as far as a seed of knowledge you'd need to know. And you'll need to do a little problem solving or mild arithmetic too. I don't think you'll need a calculator. If you need a calculator, that's okay. If you need to rewatch any videos, that's okay. If you really need to search a term, do that last, but that's okay. It's open book or whatever. It's really to get you to know how to answer all the questions, not to see, do you know how to answer them right now? So tests can be very bad, but we're going to find a way to make a good test. That will come out on the 11th on the main channel. And the answers will come out as well, probably in a bonus channel video, or maybe I'll mention them briefly in the finale. We'll see. Probably I'll just leave a link when the finale comes out, which the test I said is the second last episode, because there'll be a very long documentary like finale. They'll be coming out here on the 19th. We'll be putting out the test on the 11th and the finale on the 19th. And the finale will be very long and wild, and it will be the tale of how I somehow built this community from literal dirt while getting 2 surgeries and some other crazy fun stuff. So those are things to look forward to. Feel free to leave any thoughts or questions. I like how somebody asked where people are from. Nice to hear all of the regions. I'm in California of the US. And where right here it is just slightly after 7 p.m. So we can see like there's a window. It did just get dark. I also left the window slightly open, and I'll leave it more open even though it was quite cold recently. But when it's that open, even though it's going to make it a little cold here, I may need to put on a layer at some point. The cats will have an easy time jumping in if they need to, because they're very agile and they can go zoop through when it's really tiny even, but I don't want to strain them. You should see some of the times the windowsill's been like this, and one of my cats has jumped from a fence, like with this weird downward angular trajectory, and the only way I can say of how they go through it is that they zooped through it. You kind of need like the sound effect noise. You can't write it down easily. They zooped through the window, sort of. So that's crazy. I'll show you some footage of that sometime. Now, what we're going to look at, and that's interesting that all these different regions people are from. Why don't you also leave what time it's at where you are? For me, it's 7:13 p.m. Or to some, we would call that 1913. Now, I'm going to now put away this calendar in a moment and go to the tier list. But our final thought on that is that when the finale comes out, it'll be like a long documentary-like thing that you'll have these 2 weeks to watch all of. And we'll see if I do live streaming much or not in those 2 weeks, because it will be a transitional period where I will be setting up for grade -2, partially showing you guys, partially secretly. Grade -2 will be coming out on this one, April Fool's Day. Unless this is a big meta April Fool's. So, in this period, we'll see what happens. That will be a cool finale. And for the test, if anyone wants to prepare, you can rewatch the main channel episodes, or possibly the shorts might help as well. But all the knowledge will be something that was mentioned on the main channel. And the last thought about this is the reason I'm doing it is because I've fed you guys so much knowledge, but problem solving is part of why my brain is sharp from actually doing it myself and playing around with numbers and figuring stuff out. So I figure once a grade at least, my viewers should have to figure some stuff out along the lines that I try to in my spare time for fun. And I'll give you a lot of clues, but you know, you'll have to do a little bit of problem solving or arithmetic yourself. So thank you to everyone in the comments. I'm going to transition away from looking at the comments for a bit, so I'm not going to see the comments for a little bit while we switch over to the tier lists. At this moment, we will note, let me shrink myself a tiny bit. And I'm going to have this there. Now, we're not doing the calendar anymore. I'll save it just in case we need to talk about rare plans that are coming. But here, welcome to the tier list section. These things are fun. First, we got to start off and say, yeah, they're silly. Yeah, they're not in a way I'm trying to accurately measure anything. They kind of go along with the theme of tests, because it's like I'm giving them grades, but not an accurate measure, a fun rank as an excuse to talk about things. The ranking can be fun because it gives you an excuse to sort of praise some and roast some. The problem with mathematical things is usually it's hard to find ones that you wouldn't put really high. Well, for me, I like a lot of the stuff on them. So like if you're looking at, you know, numbers from, you look up numbers on here, you'll probably get the digits 1 through 10 or something, or 0 through 10 or 0 through 9. And it's hard to put those below S or A tier. Those are good numbers. So I did find one here that I thought would be a great, you could say, conversation starter or excuse for me to talk about a few things that will probably be their own bonus videos or main channel episodes at some point, but who knows which of these will or won't. It's a good excuse to talk about a whole batch of stuff here. And this is a tier list where I do think I am able to put some things low, even though they're mathematical things, because this is called mathematical conventions. And we'll look at it a little more up close in a minute, because this is sort of the main one I want to get to. We're actually going to do a few other warm-up tier lists that will probably sidetrack us for a bit first, but some other mathematical ones I wanted to point out first. Now, before we get to this, let's note that all over discoveries like this type of thing, you'll find the name Euler, E-U-L-E-R. It's like a mathematical joke, practically, among mathematicians that Euler's everywhere. Everything's named after him too. That's why I got this tab ready again to show. They got a whole article of list of things named after him that says he touched upon so many fields and is often the earliest written reference on a given matter. So to avoid naming everything after him, they sometimes have to name stuff after the person who proved it after him. Because look at all this stuff he proved. Now, why am I mentioning this? I mean, he popped up all over, like a quarter of our streams randomly, just in random topics. And more if I would have, really explained the history behind certain things. But not only is he there, but it turns out someone did make an Euler tier list. His discoveries, I guess. It's called All Things Euler, so it wasn't very clear, but it seems like his discoveries. So, we're not going to do this today. We will skim through it and note some that are cool or that will come up in the future. So, sometimes on these grading tiers, we're going to reorganize the tiers, and these ones are going to be nothing actually in this one because we're going through this list relatively quick. And some of these lists, this one is I'm going to talk about now. And this one will show up in grade -2. Because I know that probably we'll say. So, because this definitely will show up in grade -2. And it's very likely that this as well as this will. These aren't definite. Okay. We'll say will show up in grade -2 or -3. Those definitely will. Alright, there's too many cool things here to actually do the actual ranking of this now. Maybe someday we'll go down this rabbit hole. I will note that an Euler brick will be mentioned in grade -2 or 3. Quadratic reciprocity is going to have to come up because that's related to modular arithmetic, so we'll find a way to turn it into clock stuff. And other of these are going to have to come up. More of them. This is funny. Relations, it's like this Euler's constant, which really confusingly named, should be called the Euler-Mascheroni constant. The longer name is better for this one because it could add someone's name on it to make it clear. Euler's constant makes you think we're talking about Euler's number, E. They use Euler's constant sometimes to mean this other one, but also known as the Euler-Mascheroni constant, so we'll call it that. And then they also have relationship of it to many series and functions. So, we're not going to go into all of this crazy stuff. We've done Mersenne primes. We've done this one. We've done a bunch of cool ones. So, more stuff will come. Euler's all over math. Now, we're not actually doing that today, but I just had to show you folks. So, what's next? I was looking for math stuff on this site that had all these tier lists. I was like, we got to be able to find more math stuff. And one of the things that came up, there was tons that were a list of the numbers from 1 to 10, 1 to 10, 1 to 20, 1 to 30, 1 to 10, 1 to 30. Just all these lists of numbers of small ranges. Sometimes 1 to 100, big deal. Sometimes you'd find one that had different numbers in the mix than just all linearly up from the bottom. The problem with up linearly from the bottom is the bottom numbers are really powerful. So we do have to also assume on these tier lists, once we start being like ranky on them, that we're ranking in terms of the other items. Because otherwise, say we're ranking numbers, all of the small numbers would be S tier compared to some super random, like, pretty big, irrational, random thing. It would be, there's so much more of those compared to, like, 24s or whatever, well, that's also factorial. But compared to something that might look random, like 57s or something, even the random looking ones, if they're small, they're pretty powerful numbers. And so we're ranking them in comparison to each other. With that said, one of the things that came up was a multiples of 7 thing. And it is unordered. I didn't do that. That's how it came. But here's the weird thing about the multiples of 7 thing. So I was like, multiples of 7, that sounds random. Let's do a different multiple. They probably have like multiples of 6 or something. And then when I searched on here, multiples, there wasn't any other numbers, but there were 2 multiples of 7 tier lists. There was this one and this one. Why are there 2 multiples of 7 tier lists and no multiples of any other number tier lists? So, we're going to do multiples of 7 tier list, and we're going to go down a small rabbit hole. And the way this is going to work is we're going to pull up the Wikipedia pages for each of these numbers, and we are going to rank them. And they're going to get pretty high ranks. I already know a bunch of these. A couple of them I'm not sure where they're going to place until I see the little facts that Wikipedia will tell us about some of these random looking ones. But some of these are pretty high placing numbers, like 7. Come on. Compared to these, at least, that's an S tier number. Now, it's going to be hard. I'm not going to be able to put E and F. Sorry. We're going to be comparing them to each other, but I doubt Ni are going to get F because I'm still biased. So, 7, that's one of the low primes. It's overrated as a digit. Compared to the other digits, it might be the worst. I mean, like in terms the 1-digit numbers, it might be the worst, but it's a 1-digit number. Those things are great. It's a, it's 4th prime. So 7 definitely is S tier out of these. Now, some of these are triangular numbers. Some of these are... There's a square number in the mix. There's some good numbers here. So let's get a little help from Wikipedia real quick. And we're going to see 14. What they have to say about that. And first let's just note 7. Let's see what they have to say about 7. So... all this stuff about 7, of course. 7's a small enough... There's 7 fundamental types of catastrophes. I need to look more into this one. I do not know enough about this one to explain it. There's 7 fundamental types of catastrophes. So... yeah, lots of 7 stuff. Small numbers do cool stuff. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff with small numbers. So, 14, you're going to the test. What's up with 14? So, I'm a fan of the facts that I have already set up the explanation of for you guys. And those will partially be what we're ranking it on so that we can explain our ranking. For example, we've gone into figure-it numbers to a mild degree and will much more in grade -2, including animations. And here we note that it's a square pyramidal number. Now, the square pyramidal numbers are mildly notable. These are the sums of squares. And you could get them by stacking square balls. No, not square balls. Stacking balls. These ones are round, not square. Stacking non-square balls in this case, but any type of them, in a square formation in layers. So we're going to make one of these next year. that is really big, made out of something, because the year 2024 is coming, and 2024 is, oh no, that's a tetrahedron. So we're going to make a really big tetrahedron, which is a three-sided one of these, the sum of triangular numbers. Let's see, is that right? Yeah, it's a tetrahedral. It's going to be a three-sided one of these we're going to make. But sums of squares, that's kind of notable. So the square pyramidal numbers, you go 1, then 5, then we get 14. So that's pretty notable, but 14 is also a little random. So it's not going to get S tier. 14 is going to get A tier. But let's see what else they have to say about it. Yeah, it is a Catalan numbers are kind of cool. Those show up a lot of places. We're giving it A tier. That's a good ranking. So next we have 21. Now I know 21's triangular, so that gives it a head start. I like triangular number. Oh, it's also Fibonacci, yeah. And octagonal. Okay, that's all pretty cool. Okay, it's also a hyper 11 in base 4. Okay, that's all pretty cool, but it's also just 3 times 7. We're gonna also just give it A tier, because it has cool, keep going to the wrong one. It has cool traits like that. Well, that makes it seem pretty good. What else does it have going for it? We got Fibonacci, triangular, octagonal, hyper 11. That's S tier. At least out of these numbers. We're comparing them compared to each other. That's an S tier combo. I didn't realize 21 was so cool. Next up, we have 28. And what facts can we note here? Oh yeah, it's a perfect number, of course. 28 is a okay. Sorry. That's going, we're ranking them in comparison to each other so far. That might go up. Perfect number is S tier. Sorry, that bumps them down. Perfect number. Now, we've talked about those a bit. It means that the divisors or factors apart from itself add up to it, or that all of its positive divisors add up to twice it. And they have a lot of cool properties. They're also triangular, so it is triangular. Oh, also, you know, it's cool. So, it's the 7th triangular number. So, being the 7th triangular number and being a multiple of 7 is pretty neat. Now, we can note that it's related to the Mersenne prime 7 because they're paired up in a 1-to-1 correlation. Mersenne primes and perfect numbers. So, S tier. Next we got 35. Alright, 35 has some stiff competition. Tetrahedral. Oh, it's also, so this has a 7e trait too. It's a multiple of 7, and it's also the number of ways 3 things can be selected from a set of 7 things. A pentagonal number, a pentatope number, a centered cube number, a centered tetra. These are all sorts of other figurate numbers, and pentagonal are definitely important. These are awesome. These are part of Pascal's triangle, and they also can be seen as sort of like 4D tetrahedral numbers. So, That's cool. So, it's a 4D tetrahedral number. It's this other type of centered tetrahedral number. Pentagonal and tetrahedral itself. So, does that mean that that's because it's these two, because it's there in Pascal's triangle, which is symmetric, I think. Let's look at, where's the bigger slice of this? We're going to go more into this in the future. But you see those 35s there? Those are important. We will have episodes about Pascal's triangle, and it is actually related to the figurate numbers that we are going to do episodes about. So, 35, that seems so cool, all that stuff. Oh, and it's 1 under 36, which is a super dope number. Which is why they're saying it's the highest number you can count on one's fingers using centenary. Oh, it's hard. Okay, so we're just going to be ranking these high. These get to both be A tier. This one is going to go S tier. That's so many cool traits. Okay, next we have 42. Now, this gets a slight cultural bump up from being... I have that book somewhere, but The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Not sure where it's at. But great book series. Great series. And the number 42 is important in that. But that's more of a cultural reason here. But it gives a little bump upward. We got a Catalan number. We got partitions. We got abundant. Chronic, which means two neighboring numbers multiplied together, sort of like an almost square. It is the sphenic numbers that have a prime signature that look like 111, three different primes multiplied together. Singular amount of each. It has a very hard to do sum of 3 cubes that was found not long ago. And the sum of the first 6 positive even numbers is actually, believe it or not, the same as the fact that it's a pronic number. Those are the sum of some even numbers. They have that bonus trait. So, this is a cool one we'll go and do sometime. A bunch of these are cool ones we'll go and do sometime. Not all of them, but a bunch. And that's good traits. All that stuff makes it cool. I like the partitions, and I like the cultural stuff. But we're not going to be able to give it S tier. We're going to put it in A tier with the fellas. Now, as we get to bigger numbers, they may have less of these traits. These traits get a little scattered, and the articles get a little thinner. So, let's see what's up with these next ones. What's up with 56? Wait, no. We are now at 49 ST as a small square number, a square of a small prime. We'll look at the article, but it's a square of a small prime. Come on, those have so many cool traits. It's also the sum of the first 7 odd numbers. There's so many ways to construct square numbers. What do they have to say about it? Oh, it's friends with 42 in our base. Repeating 149th as a repeating decimal with a period of 42. Not technically called friends, that's a different thing. There is a technical thing called numbers that are friends with each other. But I also just mean it to say numbers that seem to get along. Now, it doesn't have as many other cool traits here. This is all about decimal. But it's a square of 7. Small square number. Sounds pretty S tier to me. What about 56? Now you can feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. I'll check the comments after 56. Tetrahedral. All right, also another pronic. Semi-perfect. And it has some cool traits, but these are sounding a little more random. Oh, it's partition number again. That's cool. So, sounding a little more random than the others, apart from partition's cool, pronic's cool, tetrahedral. Okay, it's got some cool traits. Okay, that's a lot of cool stuff. 56 will be allowed to join the A club. Not quite S tier. I know we have them all in S and A. We will see about these fellas, but it's hard to not bias the list. These numbers are cool. So, I know I said I was going to try and sort them against each other, but I knew I'd be a little biased and put them all high. So, I'll check the comments real quick and then we're going to go forward. Someone made a joke about numbers are now called Euler letters. I did see that one before, the one they quoted, and it is a great one. Numbers being called Euler letters would be right along the line of all the other math stuff that they name after them. All right. Now, people are liking 7. I don't like 7 compared to the one-digit numbers, but compared to these fellas, it's pretty cool. I don't know why multiples of 7 got so much. And yeah, that's what the tier list is. You got watching earlier, you can hop earlier in the stream if you want, but basically, for some reason, they have 2 tier lists available on this site about multiples of 7, and no tier lists available for any other multiples. Don't ask me. I'm just the one doing the tier list. So, 63. Alright, some cool traits we'll talk about not later. We do know that it's a hyper 11 in binary because it's a Mersenne number, but it's not a Mersenne prime. But being 1 less than a power of 2 is still cool. Oh, and whoa, look at all these palindromic and rep digit and all these bases. It's 11, of course, in some base. That's trivial. 33 in base 20. 77 in base 8. 333 in base 4. All these ones in base 2. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And it gets an A. So, what about 70? 70 is one that a lot of people would assume would get pretty high ranked, but I'm going to have no base 10 bias toward it. I don't care that it looks like it ends in a 0 in our base. So, in fact, these being the multiples of 7, let's think about what that means in bases for a moment. Well, if we were in base 7, this would look like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 is what it would look like. So, that's interesting. Now, 70. Oh, I love 70 for this one trait. This one trait about 70 makes it so cool. It's the smallest weird number. So the best thing about that is that when I tell somebody that 70 is the smallest weird number, and they usually don't know that unless they like number theory a lot, then, I mean, they usually don't know what that means. Then I explain. It's a number, like their definition here, basically. Abundant but not semi-perfect. And it's like, what do those things mean? Bring these two other definitions that sound silly and whimsical and cool. A weird number is precisely defined as a natural number that's abundant but not semi-perfect. Now, what does that mean? Abundant means all of its factors, by which I mean, the positive factors that can divide it cleanly. All of a number's factors, apart from itself, add up to more than it. But semi-perfect would mean that a subset of the proper divisors add up. Well, here, let me show with the divisors here. All these divisors, apart from 70, all these ones, add up to more than 70, so it's abundant. But there's no subset you can make out of these, of like some combo of them that you can make using them up to once each in any combo of all the ones apart from 70 that add to exactly 70. If you could do that, that would be called semi-perfect. You can't do that here. So it's abundant but not semi-perfect, which is the trait that weird numbers have. The next one's in like the 400s or something. 800s. 70, then 836. Then 4,000. Maybe I was thinking 30. So 70 is the only weird number less than 800. That's pretty cool. So just because I like number theory and I like weird numbers, we're giving 70 an S tier, as weird as it sounds. Not because of the zero, because of the weirdness. Now, what about 77? Now, 77's obviously a what you'd call rep digit in our base, in the base 10 system. But that just means it's multiplied by the number 1 more than our base, and which is 11 in this case. What properties does it have? So 77 here is a partition number. Integer partitions. Yeah, partitions. The largest number that cannot be written as a sum of distinct numbers whose reciprocals sum to 1. That's interesting. I want to look into that one. There we go, 77, the last member of this sequence. I'm going to have to look into this later. That sounds cool. I'm going to research that sometime. So, this is kind of random stuff. Now, let's see if it's a rep digit in any other bases. If it's 770ness that makes it look cool, is actually cool in any... No, not Tableau. Table of bases. $77 looks like that here. Now we run out of room there to see what it would look like there. It's not like a super rep digity one apart from our base. So, I mean, of course it'll be 1, 1 in some base. It might be 2, 2, but I'm not even sure if it's going to be. It's not a very rep digity one of repeated digits. And 77 is our first C, our B tier. Not C, good. S-A-B, that feels nicer. B. What about 84, though? Dodecahedral number. Tetrahedral. Palindromic rep. Well, that's automatic if it's a rep digit. It has to be palindromic, but it's a rep digit. See, this is what I was looking for. Look, this is the real 77. This one's 77 in base 11, and it's all these other rep digits. Now, believe it or not, that is an episode topic I'm planning for the future, is which numbers are rep digits in the most bases and which ones have special properties along those lines. That will be a grade -2 episode. But here we can already note that that's cool, that it's a 2-2, a 3-3, a 4-4, a 6-6, and a 7-7. And tetrahedral. But it doesn't have that many different traits. I think that's giving it... Can I put it on the line? I want to put it on the line. Nah, no lines. Okay. Closest to B. Just to balance it out so these can stay there. So, that's what we're going with for now. As we can see, to a degree, the lower... No, the lower ones didn't overpower it. These guys got skipped. So, yeah, this is my mix. Leave your thoughts in the comments for what you do. Now, that's just one of the tier lists that I've pulled up, like I mentioned. And the main other one is this. Math conventions. And this is going to be intense and fun. So, I'm going to take a sip of water and look at the comments first, and then we're going to look at these conventions. I'm not sure if you can see them well, but these are the things we're discussing and ranking. Now, this tier list we will be keeping the same, and we will be discussing them and ranking where they sit on the tier list. And if you have any thoughts in the comments, let me know now, because we are going to then put away the comments for a moment and just rank. Someone wonders the difference between a prime and a Gaussian prime. Well, we haven't gone into that yet. Gaussian primes will be a future episode. So that is an interesting enough question I want to respond to, that it will be a future episode. So we talked about Gaussian integers, but Gaussian primes are for grade -2. And thank you all for joining me. Can't answer every single question and thought, but love you all for posting them. What we're going to start with here is looking at these conventions and trying to rank them. So, let me shrink this a bit. Okay. And time to try and rank some mathematical conventions. One not being prime. I've made a video about that. And that is a good convention. It is not concretely necessary, depending how we interpret this. If we interpret this to mean the word prime, do we include one in what we call with that word in our language? Because math is a language. Then that could kind of go either way. We could have named primes anything. But if we go with, what does prime fundamentally mean? Prime fundamentally means we're gonna need a word for the multiplicative building blocks of numbers. And you can see my bonus video sometime, if you haven't, about why 1 doesn't fit in with that multiplicative structure. So 1 is not prime is a good convention. Now, I'm not gonna give it an S tier convention, because it's sort of talking about language to a further degree. These are all to a degree language, but in this one, it's extra languagey by having this word that we categorize things with that actually has meant to some mathematicians at times in history has included 1. The way we defined it makes sense, which is that if we imply with some sort of ... or line over the numbers or whatever, an infinite repeating decimal, then we imply that it's equal to whatever limit it converges to. A decimal is basically a bunch of little things from the base adding up together. Like this is 9/10 plus 9/100 plus 9,000 plus etc. So what we're really saying here is that we've decided that we're going to set this point, an infinite thing, to mean what its series would approach, because more natural than saying some other random thing. And what it approaches is the value that it gets arbitrarily close to. You can pick any small amount and it will be closer than that at some point, but that it never passes. And here we're saying that if we follow that rule, this should be what the limit of 9/10 plus 9/100 plus 9,000 plus etc. is. And the limit of that geometric series is 1. So it really is a language thing, though. When we said we're allowed to make an infinite decimal, it was our choice how we defined it. However, this works better than the alternatives. It's neater, probably. And there are other systems that have other big flaws when they try and get around this, like splitting these two. They're cool ones. We'll get into systems where these are different. However, infinitesimal systems, ones that involve infinitesimals, that are sometimes different than the ones used in calculus or stuff. But in most arithmetic, you don't want to sacrifice all of the stuff you'd have to sacrifice by making these not equal. So this is a really good convention, but since it's also something we have chosen to make work and chosen that the equal sign is allowed to be after an infinite decimal, we're still just putting that A tier. Because there are other fun alternatives like infinitesimal system or based systems where these are different. You sacrifice a lot of other laws. So going in A tier. Now you might be like, am I going to put everything in A tier? No. 1 over 0 equals infinity. No. One of my most, actually, yeah, by far my most popular video on YouTube and on TikTok, on the two platforms I've posted Combo Class on. The most popular video on each is the same short of me talking about a divide by zero error. So most of you probably know this, my opinions on this. However, if we just whip up a graph real quick for fun, Desmos. Y equals 1 over x at x equals 0 should tell us what we want. Well, as I'm getting there from the positive direction, we're going toward infinity. As I'm going there from the negative direction, I'm going there toward negative infinity. You know, it's what you could call a discontinuous bit there, a discontinuity. It's also, you could call this asymptotes they have. And the funny thing is when I post this short on my normal videos, I get such nice comments on my main channel, and then on the shorts you get the most random comments from people who think they are so wise and smart, like, no, you're wrong because of so and so, random quick thing. And a lot of the people on that video, I have had no way to go through even like 10% of the comments, but I've gone through some of them. And a lot of the people are like, no, you're wrong because it's an asymptote. Or like, no, you're wrong because of this other thing. That's simultaneously true. It's like, I know you heard the term asymptote in class and you want to be smart, but that's true in addition to other things. That's not the game changer word that makes everything else not true. So why we'll cover misconceptions about infinite series in a video soon, because that's the new video that's getting the most views right now, is my one about the harmonic series. And even though the video is a proof that it's divergent, so many people either don't believe it's divergent or say that any infinite series would be divergent. I mean, not using the word divergent, but meaning explode toward infinity. Now, here we can see we got a glitch at 1 over 0. We only want to call it infinity if we are either working in some arithmetic realm where a negative infinity is the same as a positive infinity, which we don't really treat it on our normal number line. Other systems could try to, but once again, sacrifice things. And 1 over 0... just being interpreted on the positive side, it's kind of a dud. They didn't clarify any reason why this 1 over 0 should send us to positive infinity instead of just being something you can't comprehend. So, like I said in the short, in most fields of math, it's called undefined. There are others, but you lose stuff. So, when it comes to the tier list, a bad convention that 1 over 0 equals infinity. It's partially right. So out of the possibilities on this list, because they don't have an F, we're going to give it C tier, even in that realm where you're doing that and that's your convention. But in a bigger scale, when you're looking at all the fields of math, they're not really fully true. I wouldn't call these true statements. I would call these... no, that's true, and sometimes you say that's true. Other times you call this indeterminate, or things similar to undefined. So, those are getting C tier at best. Nah, I don't know. I'm downgrading these. These are bad. I don't like them sitting here like an equation. There are fields of math where it makes sense to do this, but when you zoom out, this can't just be sitting here like an equation. I mean, you run into natural problems, like the thought that division's supposed to imply that you could multiply that to that, canceling that out and having one there. This means 1 times 0 is 0. And if I had a 2 there instead, then it would also be true, because I could multiply it, and 2 times 0 is 0. So if I say 0 over 0 equals A, it's true for any A. Now this one's weird because it's like 0 to the power of anything is typically 0. Anything to the 0th power is typically 1. So what do you do here? Some fields of math use these. Others say indeterminate or other things similar to undefined. So they're going down here. I don't like them sitting there like an equation. Okay, zeros in the natural numbers. That's another one that there's logic to both sides, and I'm not going to go into a full explanation on this. I'm not picking a side today on if zero is a natural number or not. Fight in the comments. I'm putting in the middle. I'm not picking a side. We'll do that in a later video. This is one I really wanted to talk about, though. This is something people ask me a lot. Is explain the thing about how when you add up... Well, I don't know if you guys can even see it that clear. Can you see that? Explain the thing where when you add up all the positive integers, you get negative 1/12. Where the sum of 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus etc. is negative 1/12. They want me to explain that. But here's the problem. It's not true. There is a correlation between negative 1/12 and this, and there is a certain type of sum that gives you this. However, the certain type of sum that gives you negative 1/12 is... Well, first let me start. Why do people think this? Well, there is some truth to negative 1/12 being related to this series, and also being quite important in a few random spots related to this thing called the Riemann zeta function. Now, there was a video on one of the best math channels out there called Numberphile that I hope to do a presentation on someday, which they make great videos where the guy Brady interviews different people on different subjects, and one of their videos that was kind of flawed, so sorry that this is going to be like a diss to Numberphile for a moment. They're an excellent channel, top-notch, brilliant channel, but one of their videos sort of over dramatized this or whatever, and they were like, these numbers add to -1/12, and here's a proof. And then when people look it up and see that there's some historical backing that -1/12 is correlated to a sum related to this, they're like, oh wow, the proof was true. And the problem with that is it makes a lot of people actually not trust math. It makes a lot of people feel like, well, if that's true and it just feels so instinctually wrong that if you keep adding up numbers, getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then -1/12. Well, some things that feel instinctually wrong can be resolved with a paradox, but that thing, or, are stuck in a paradox. But this thing seems so instinctually wrong that it makes a lot of people feel like, well, if that's true in math, then anything could be true in math. I don't even trust math anymore, practically. And the thing is, the gut feeling's correct. 1 + 2 + 3 + 4 getting bigger and bigger and bigger will keep getting bigger, and the sum will pass every finite size, and it does not get negative at any point when you are adding them. And if you are taking the sum of them, and you try and take the sum of all of them, the answer is it diverges or approaches infinity. And that's what the gut feeling tells you. It goes toward infinity. And that is actually correct. -1/12 is a different type of summation that is applied to it because it's divergent. So they go, well, if this series is divergent, what info can we get about it by fiddling around with it a little bit and tweaking it and seeing other ways to take a sum of other ways of reinterpreting what a sum means. So one way I think it could be put, I think I may have read this somewhere, I forget, was that you could say that the sum of all of the natural numbers is -1/12. If you're slightly redefining some natural numbers and -1/12 and equals. So basically, if you redefine all the words in the sentence, it's true, or tweak them a bit. But it's a different type of sum. It's a sum applied as a workaround because the gut feeling's correct. The numbers go up toward infinity. However, unfortunately, this Numberphile video kind of popularized the idea that, like, nope, the sum is equal to that. They just add up to that. It's magic. And so, yeah, that one's going to have to get a C tier. No, it's a D tier because they're just writing it like an equal sign without elaborating anymore. There's some truth to the -1/12 in there, but just writing that out like an equation, no. You got to clarify what type of weird sum you're using if you're going to just stick an equal sign there. Because otherwise we would assume the equal sign means, what is this approach? And the answer would be it diverges to infinity. And stuff diverging to infinity, like I mentioned earlier, is a topic that would have been in grade -1 if it had fit. I have this magnificent episode for it planned. Multiple, because there's a whole episode and then one about the Riemann zeta function that sort of connects to it. And those will be in early grade -2. Because we're near the end of grade -1. 3 more episodes, including The fun, weird version of a final exam and the finale. So this is my tier list here. Leave your thoughts on what you would change. As far as S tier, there's nothing there. I wonder what's a convention I would put in S tier. Hard to say. I mean, there's obvious ones. Yeah, leave a thought if there's any you would put in S tier or in F tier. All right. Now, speaking of grade -2, we are going to switch modes for a second to... Uh-oh, this is in the way. Oh no, what did I do? What did I do? What have I done? Oh no. There we go. Okay. But wait, I'm gonna shrink for a moment anyway. Wait, no, that's a bad way of shrinking. What am I doing? I'm gone for a moment. And so I'm gonna check the chat for 1 second and look at this thing here we're going to rewrite the sides because we're not going to rank them. We're going to do something slightly different with these. We're also going to put this in presentation mode. And leave your thoughts on these before we jump right into it. Where am I? Okay. So we're going to be doing this one a little different and more personal combo class related. Oh yeah, I forgot to see. All right, let's see. So we got a lot of good thoughts to whoever said they missed an hour. Okay, yeah, we're gonna do a chat break. Actually, I'm gonna do the opposite of shrinking myself. Ironically, I'm gonna grow myself. Then I can look at the chat on the computer. We're gonna do a chat break. Then we're gonna do that other tier list over there. So, which will be mildly mathematical. We'll come back to the mathematical stuff later for people who like that the most. So, where's my comments at? One person mentioned a Wikipedia article I might want to pull up at some point. They said that they thought something might be wrong on it. Let me check that and see. I'm curious about that. So, they have a Wikipedia article on that. Let's see that. That sounds interesting. I'll pull that up in a second. And so, a lot of good thoughts. And thank you all. So, I can't go through all of these right now, but awesome to have you all joining me. We're going to look at this Wikipedia article right now and see what somebody thought might be wrong about where an y-axis intercepts a parabola, and because I just want to see that anyway. Let me get that article here. So here, yeah, infinite series whose terms are the natural numbers is a divergent series. The nth partial sum is a triangular number because, you know, that's the triangular numbers. 1, 3, we call these partial sums. 6. The first 4 partial sums of the series and the parabola is their smoothed asymptote. Its y-intercept is -1/12. So That's interesting. That's one of the ways we can see it in relation to the series, making this interesting graph. And these are the methods they mentioned in particular: zeta function regularization and Ramanujan summation. Assign the series the value of negative 1/12, which are techniques you would use on a divergent series that you already know does go to infinity, and you're saying, so now let's reinterpret equals for a minute. Ooh, and this bit about partial sums, we can't even get down there. That's too many spoilers, because triangular numbers are going to be all over grade -2. Triangular numbers are so cool. Polygonal numbers in general, and figurate numbers of these bigger categories of numbers like that, super cool. We're going to have some series about those. By series, I just mean multiple episodes in grade -2. Now, I don't know if this is wrong or not. I'd have to look into that more. Right now, we are going to jump back into the tier list. If somebody thinks this is wrong, you guys can check in the comments. I don't have time to do that right now, but quite interesting thoughts. And jumping back, what we're going to use this one for. This tier list is going to be how likely are they going to show up in grade -2. So these are more, it's a more personal question. How likely are you going to see one of these in my videos in one of the next year? And so what we're going to do is S will be almost definitely in grade -2. A will be very likely in grade -2. Well, no, that's okay. Probably, we'll just put there. Probably in grade -2, because then we can say probably in grade -2, and then we'll say probably in grade -2 or grade -3, just to give ourselves a little more room. And then we'll say might be mentioned in one of the, in a grade soon. And then we got probably won't show up soon. Won't see for a long time. I'll say probably, because you never know. We gotta, you know, be ready for any topic to hit us that needs discussing. So, let's see. Interesting right here. We got math. That one is almost definitely going to be in grade -2. I'm just putting there because that's what we had a lot of focus on, grade -1. Some grades may have more focus on other types of science, other types of creativity even. But math will definitely be at the heart of much of it because I love that. And grade -1 was extra heavy in it. Grade -2 probably will also be extra heavy in it. Now, botany. We like botany a lot, but I should just go down the list. Botany, to a mild degree, shows up in my snack break episodes and stuff like that, where we look at some facts about fruits and plants sometimes. Archaeology. Now, I don't know how likely archaeology will be. Now, we kind of have a gag about alien archaeologists in the future. When they dig up some terrain, we'll find my combo classroom and be like, why was there a layer of clocks and dice? You know, when they're going through like this sediment layer, they're like, okay, this is the so-and-so layer of rock, the so-and-so layer, the igneous rock or whatever, the clock layer, the dice layer. Wait a minute. So that will probably get a mention. These higher ones, when we say probably in, we mean like, you know, a more direct mention or part of an episode. Astronomy. Similarly, we talk about aliens. So, not that I believe aliens are flying around invading us or anything. We talk about the hypothetical possibilities of them. So, that might be mentioned. Chemistry. I want to say probably, we'll say grade -2 or 3, because I don't know how soon I'll be able to do it. I want to do more stuff with chemistry, but you gotta make it look cool to be worth it. Chemistry's not as cool on a whiteboard. And so I need some crazy chemistry supplies or some to befriend someone with a lab. So we're going with grade -2 or -3 for that one. Computer science. We'll go similarly because while it'll probably help me with some of my work, I don't know exactly how soon we're going to explain details about it, but it is relatively related. Ecology. You know, I love nature, so I'm going to say it'll probably be in grade -2, depending how you interpret it. I'll probably have some shout outs to trying to be nice to nature. And types of ecology. Economics. Not as much of a fan of that. Kind of boring. Probably won't show up soon. I don't know. Nah. Yeah, it seems so like I want my videos to be watchable by aliens in a bunch of years. They'll be able to translate them. And this will seem too much like a pop culture current trend thing. I almost want to put it there, but I don't know. Probably won't. Maybe grade -4. So, education. Almost definitely. That is very vague. Engineering. We're going to say probably. I would like to try and build something. I would like to try and build some sort of alarm clock for fun, for example. That'd be a fun project. Can I make something ring in an hour from scratch? Environmental / earth. Now I'm mixing this up with ecology, so we'll stick it right next to it. But yeah, we love nature, and we're going to go on more field trips because I was recovering from 2 surgeries and getting them over the course of last year. That'll be explained more in the grade -1 finale. But only very recently did I have the ability to go on stuff like hikes again. For the first time in like 2 years. 3 years, maybe. So, geology. What a life. Geology. Geology is like rocks, right? So, geology will probably be in one of these grades. History will probably be in grade -2 because there will be some sort of topics where I will want to dive into the history of them, and that may end up taking a sizable enough chunk of an episode to deserve a thing here. Now, human bio. I don't know. Might be mentioned. Law. Probably not going to show up soon. Sorry, folks. These ones, like, I don't know. They're kind of boring to me. We'll get into them. They're going to show up. There's going to be reasons to talk about them. But those are, to me, more of live stream topics than main channel topics. Linguistics. I like that. Almost definitely in grade -2. I like doing once in a while some language episodes. Some that we might see in grade -2 on linguistics, maybe ones about words with no rhyme, ones about pluralization, and so on. In fact, the next episode coming on the Combo Class channel is, like I mentioned earlier, a mix of language and math. So it's sort of linguistic-ish. And it is the third language-ish episode of the grade. But this one's different because those ones were pure language. They were earlier in the grade. And this one is a mix of language and math because it's about spelling numbers. Now, to anyone who knows other languages, After the episode, definitely leave a comment about which of the patterns are true in that language also, and which ones are different. Because I'm just going to be able to do English. I know, like, the tiniest hair of understanding Spanish, pretty much none of it, and no other language. And so we're doing English. Now, meteorology. That sounds specific. I'm assuming that's just about meteors we're meaning. That probably won't show up soon, specifically meteors. Who knows? It might be mentioned. Meteorology sounds cool. Oceanography. Now, I live not that far from oceany areas. I'm, near the California coast. So, we're going to go probably in either grade -2 or 3. We'll discuss some science behind the ocean. Now, philosophy will almost definitely be in grade -2. The grade -1 finale, for example, will be leaning more on the edge of philosophy than pure facts. And also just behind the scenes fun stuff mixed with that. And there will be some episodes where I do want to share more philosophical things, because some of those I have planned. I'm a writer as well, and I have a lot of thoughts that I feel like could be good videos that I originally wrote that I may translate into videos. But with those, some of them are hard to get exactly how I want them. They're grandiose concepts, or they feel like I'm more perfectionist about making sure it was really extra cool or good if it was a personal philosophy thing compared to something I can concretely prove in math. But there will be philosophy-based episodes in the future, including me explaining combo theory, me explaining contrast theory, me explaining other of the rare C-named theories I've mentioned in the past, such as clue theory. And we will, those are rare personal philosophies I will explain someday. And that's why I'm putting it almost definitely. To the people who like just one of these topics, like math, sorry, stick around, then you will get those videos too. Physics. Probably in grade -2. Maybe not a full physics-based episode, but it'll probably... we're going to go probably grade -2 or 3 if we're talking about enough of stuff being... It will show up in some way or form. Political science. Once again, less likely. Psychology. Probably in one of these grades. It's similar to philosophy in a slightly different analytical lens, but psychology will probably show up. Sociology, we will put a little lower. I'm a little less into certain historical-ish things, or like looking at culture type things, than I am about some types of math or some types of philosophy, but still cool. Might be mentioned. Zoology. Now, it really depends how you define that. I don't think we're going to do a zoo episode next grade, but we talk about animals sometimes, and so maybe we'll go to nature and talk about some sort of animal. And because of that, I'm putting probably in grade -2. We'll consider there'll probably be an animal we discuss. So, this is our random tier list of things that will probably, maybe, or maybe not show up in the next year or two of combo class. But you never know. I might get some weird seed in my mind that I get obsessed with. Sometimes I just go down a rabbit hole of one thing or another. Although I do plan on continuing combo class just how it's been going. Although I plan on continuing combo class, it's very new. So you never know how things will evolve. It will probably stay relatively similar, but this channel is less than half a year old. And you want to know the craziest thing? The amount of views on this channel, because of the shorts, is about to pass the amount of seconds in a year. We already are slightly past the amount of minutes in a year subscribers, but we're about to hit the amount of seconds in a year of views. And we've only had the channel alive for less than half a year. And that means that this channel has gotten 2 views per second on average. That's just crazy, but it's true. Since it got started. And it definitely wasn't getting 2 views per second right when it got started. Sometimes it's been way more popular. It wasn't all at once, and it's not all now. There are some videos that just like went some certain day. And it was mostly the shorts. And there was one video on the main channel that went crazy, and a few that did pretty awesome too. So we got to get more main channel vids popping. Make sure to leave comments on those and watch the whole thing of those. The main channel is where it's at. Also will help you study for the test. Now, remember, like I said, I hate tests. I'm going to make it fun. I'm going to make it a good challenge for the brain. You can just try what parts of it you want to try. The answers will come like a week later. So, that was most of the tier lists I had planned. The other thing that I looked up here was puzzle, because I was like, do they have tier lists for cool types of mathematical puzzle? Because I was having trouble finding other types of number or math thing on here. In fact, leave me any cool tier list you'd like to see in the future in a comment. If you ever want me to see something in the future, it's better to leave it after the stream posts in a comment on the stream, but not obligated to. But you can always send me if you want me to do any of these in the future. But here, there's one I was going to do, which is famous puzzles. But I had to show you just the search of puzzle here, because it's kind of funny to me. I'm like, puzzle, Glenn Quagmire. What is Quagmire from the cartoon Family Guy? A puzzle. What are we ranking here? And you're not ranking anything. They're like using the the tier lists template to be able to make a puzzle. They're like, how can they somehow found a way to make the tier list template into just a totally different but technically functional game. So I did not build him. I'm not going to go through the task of building Quagmire from Family Guy. But I find that kind of funny that someone found a completely different way to use these tier lists. Pretty innovative, if anything. So, the one I was actually going to do is famous puzzles here. So, don't know what this is. Looks cool, though. Don't know what that is. Don't even know if it looks cool. Now these ones I all know. Word searches. Okay, guys. Wait, I'm the right size, right? Yeah, okay, I'll go a little smaller. Word searches, guys. Or folks, or everyone. Word searches. These things are bad. These are not a good puzzle. There are so many good puzzles you can make with that amount of space. Bad use of space for a puzzle. Kind of cool that you can find the words. It's not like the worst thing in the world. Like I would do one for fun if I was at an airport and it was in the magazine or something. But I would prefer there was something else in the magazine. So D tier. Not quite E tier, but word searches are pretty bad. Sorry to word search lovers. Maybe there's some really epic, intense word searches that are really challenging, good. I haven't seen one. So, Rubik's Cubes. Now, a lot of people would think I would put this S tier. And it's an S tier item. Mathematically, it's super interesting. It's a cool concept for a puzzle. However, as a puzzle, I'm only giving it A tier. And here's why. it's pretty impossible to solve without looking up an algorithm or spending like a year on it. So it's the type of puzzle that pretty much everyone who solves it learned their solving way from having to look something up. And it's very algorithm based, the way people do it quickly, and it requires a lot of memorization. So, although like solving the top layer of it is this little challenge that's kind of like works the brain a little, a lot of the other steps of solving it, and I have forgotten the algorithm now, but it would be quick to relearn. I have known Rubik's Cubes at various points in my life. And it's various algorithms you can memorize to get faster at it. And there's not that much problem solving actually going on compared to memorization when you're trying to solve the cube. There could be if you took a year on it and tried to figure all this stuff out. But I don't know. It's since most people have to look up the algorithm for it and aren't able to solve the whole puzzle with problem solving. As a puzzle, it's getting A tier. I feel so bad not putting an S tier. If this was called famous items, I would put it up there, but it's called famous puzzles. So I'm going based on how good of a puzzle they are. Crossword puzzles. I haven't done them that much, but they're decent. I'm going to give them a B. So it's very language based, but it's pretty good for your brain, and they relatively good structure. They make them all symmetric looking with these blocks too, usually in the newspaper. I remember it's funny how some people notice things that others don't notice. See how this is symmetrical across an axis? In fact, 2 axes possibly, but at least one. All of them have some sort of symmetry in the newspaper that my family got, and I pointed it out to my dad once, just casually, something related to it, and he had never noticed after years of getting the paper. He's a really smart guy, but had never noticed that they were symmetric. He is very smart, but not that visually, people have different cues that they learn. Weird what you can miss. Now, what about this puzzle? This thing is cool. It has some mathematical history, and you slide around the things trying to get them all in order. Kind of frustrating, a little bit fun. We're giving it due to its mathematical, mildly interesting, it's kind of interesting mathematically, we'll give it a B. Puzzle-wise, not the best in the world, but pretty cool. Now, what is it? This is an actual puzzle, which there actually is one out there. So I live here with my family, like my mom and my brother here right now, and my mom loves doing puzzles. Sometimes I do them with her, and it can be a meditative activity. So there's actually a puzzle out there. And puzzles can be cool. They can be calming and fun. They're not the greatest thing in the world, but I actually think they're kind of cool. I think they're a good like group activity or sort of nice thing to have. Puzzle pieces are also a little bit symbolic and interesting. I'm putting them up there. I like them. Okay, cube gets S tier. I had to do it. Puzzles A tier, cubes are S tier. Mazes. I love the concept of mazes. I have gone into mazes once in an earlier stream, and I will again in a future stream, about how mazes are very symbolic and important and can be seen as similar to other things such as Wikipedia's structure, a choose-your-own-adventure book, a point-and-click video game, one of the books I'm writing. So mazes are similar to a lot of things, and a drawn maze like this, I used to make them in school. Well, I mean, not as part of the school activity. I used to make them when I was bored in school. And they're really fun, but, you hit a limit with them, but they can be really cool. That's an A tier. Mazes are cool. I like mazes. I'm maybe not going to buy a book of mazes and sit down and do them all, but the concept of a cool maze, you can have a lot of interesting potential. Maze design is really interesting to me. How do you make a maze tricky with a limited amount of detail to it? Okay, guys, spot the difference. This is another one that's not top tier. It could be kind of fun. It's not, I don't know whether to give Spot the Difference C tier or E tier. Spot the Difference is like where you look at the two pictures and you see, is there anything different about the two of them? So let me see about Spot the Difference. How do I feel about that? I feel like you gotta look at pictures for and look for clues, so that's kind of cool. Sort of like a visual word search, a little more clue based. Still just C tier at best. Spot the Difference is not that great. And you got Sudoku. I like those. So, okay. There will be a future stream where I will go into the puzzle I think's better than Sudoku that was published in the newspaper I got called To Not Touch. And it is... Okay, so I'm going to give a shout out to this guy's site real quick where I got the puzzles from. CrazyDad.com. Good puzzles here. Shout out to this guy. He prints out puzzles, or he makes puzzles available that you can print or do online. And this one called To Not Touch, also known as Star Battle, is really great. I love it. When I was in a hard time of life, I did like 1 billion of these, and I'm probably... This is going to sound like an exaggeration, but I might be, like, if they for some reason made tournaments of these, like the best To Not Touch person in the world, if I went back to it. Because I remember the guy who made them said somewhere that he had trouble with some of the harder level ones, and I would time myself, and I could do the hardest level ones timed in 1 or 2 minutes. And I, like, learned all these crazy hacks to it, and since it's, I don't know how popular it is of a puzzle, Star Battle or To Not Touch, but I'm probably one of the fastest people at it in the world. So, it's a weird, I don't know if that skill will ever come in handy. It's a really fun thing, though. It's geometric. So you put little dots places. There's also 3 Not Touch versions, the Star Battle with 3 stars, or 1 star, so you can have 1 Not Touch or 3 Not Touch versions. This is so cool. I like it. Honestly, more than Sudoku. I had a Sudoku phase when I was younger, too. And both of them are really cool, but I like this one more. There's other cool ones on this site, too. Man, there's really cool puzzles. So this type of puzzle I like. These ones, sometimes I print out, and I do when I need something meditational to do. So, those type of puzzles, awesome. Sudoku, if I had To Not Touch, I'll put S tier if I had it. Sudoku, I'm going to put A tier. It's a good puzzle. It's not as good as To Not Touch, though. So, leave a comment if you agree or disagree with these. Although if you say you disagree with these ones, that'll be weird. You're like, yeah, I disagree that you've never played that. I saw that on a stream once. I'm like, what? You know? Leave a comment if you agree or disagree with any of the upper region. As we noticed, like I was biased toward math stuff, I was biased toward puzzles, and I just didn't have the heart to put anything in the lowest tier. Even though I'm trying to rank them compared to each other. So, I'm going to check the comments, and that's the last tier list I had ready here. It was hard to find math ones. I'll find some more fun ones, a few streams down the line. We got other stream ideas planned in the meantime. So, after I check the comments, I am going to end the stream. This has been a long one. Did a bunch of tier lists. Can take a little breather and then add timestamps. So, I will be adding the timestamps. As I'm adding them, I will update it. So if anyone here missed some of the stream and wants to watch the earlier parts, you can refresh the page once in a while and you'll see my timestamps being added. And those are chapters that will be telling you, if you don't want to watch the whole thing, what parts did what. Someone asked about Minesweeper. I did have a Minesweeper phase 2. I was really fast at that for 1 month in middle school. Me and a friend got really into Minesweeper for sure. So, and thank you to everyone who's being nice. Someone asked about personality tests. That could be fun to do on a stream sometime. They will not give accurate answers. Just like, when I do my combo class test that we're going to have in an upcoming, not the next episode, but the one after on the main channel, the grade -1 test, the final exam. In that episode, I am going to talk about how not only do I think tests are oversaturated in society, not a full test measure of your worth, and shouldn't have so much stake put behind them for this massive grade you get or whatever. I also could tie in, which I probably won't, personality tests, but what I probably will tie in that's similar is IQ tests, which are pretty, nonsensical and weird. I'll do one someday for fun. If anyone ever wants to pay for one, I'm totally down. Anyone ever wants to pay for one, I'll do it. You have to do a legit one. You can't just trust some online one unless it's a particular couple of sites. But I've seen the practice tests from official ones. You can see practice tests from official IQ places. And it's a very, very specific type of pattern recognition. I really imagine that some people who are both very intelligent could be highly better or worse than each other at this particular type of pattern recognition that IQ tests are. Almost every question on these practice exams from the legit places is these are these 8 shapes, which shape's next? These are these 8 shapes, which shape's next? These are these 8 shapes, which shape's next? Or something along those lines. It's a really, really specific type of thing. So, people have different types of knowledge, different types of intelligence. So people are requesting tier lists, but you got to make the tier list or find an actual link to it, because they don't always have tier lists of all those. They might have a tier list of the constants. Oh, someone said meteorology is weather. I got that wrong. So where do we put that? I cleared that one, I guess. So that one's gone. Sorry. Meteorology, weather. I forgot where I put it. Hopefully it was in the right spot. All right. Lots of great comments today. We've had a lot of good combo lords. I guess these tier lists were fun for people. We'll be trying a lot of random fun things on my computer in different streams over time. There's going to be once in a while, rotating through our crazy graph streams, our weird tier list streams, our me showing you how to make digital music streams, and various other things you'll see. Someone's wondering where I am in California. I'm not going to be super specific, but I am in the Bay Area of California. And if anyone who is a big fan is in the Bay Area of California, I don't know, let me know on the Discord or in a comment or something. And I am possibly open to doing some sort of fan meetup or something, but I'm not going to be more specific than that I'm in the Bay Area of California. Although if you watch all my streams, it's come up in an episode before, what city I'm in. Not my address or anything. Someone said an autism test. I don't know how they would test for that through a computer necessarily, or test for that in general. Would probably require a variety of tests. I don't know. Not sure the process of that. I'm probably tiny bit on whatever scale there is there. I'm not sure the right terminology of autism, of if there's, what spectrums there are or aren't. But I'm probably 10% autistic. I have a fine time socializing. I've never had noticed things that most autistic people might notice throughout life. But I do get very, one thing I have that I have seen attributed to autistic people, the one trait I have noticed in myself a lot is getting fixated on certain tasks for periods and getting a sort of hyper focus on a certain thing. So, and I'm definitely different and strange as a person. So I have a variety of things going on in my brain. I've also been, to be personal, I don't know if I believe all these, but one doctor diagnosed me as bipolar before. And then a later doctor said he thought that wasn't the case, that I have this anxiety type, all the list of generalized anxiety, this sort of depression, this sort of thing for the types of anxiety and depression you can have. And they were like, you probably also have some ADHD a little bit or something, or maybe the bipolar, the last person said. And I don't like talking to doctors that much, so I didn't really care to dive down the rabbit hole of what name they wanted to put on it further. But I don't know. Technically, I was diagnosed as bipolar and as possibly having ADHD. They never mentioned the autism, but probably like 10%. Everyone's a little weird. I'm a little weirder than normal. Don't care too much about labeling what's in there because I know that whatever combo is going on in there is a different combo that the labels would have a hard time categorizing, for me at least. So, all right. People mentioned a lot of tests. All sorts of online tests are sort of nonsensical and don't give you good data. So we'll do them, but take them with a grain of salt, as you say. Don't believe the results are conclusive of anything. I'm totally fine doing them for fun. But part of my whole test episode coming up is about how tests in general are not a measure of intelligence. So if you do other tests, personality tests are not a measure of personality. It's been shown that things like the Myers-Briggs test are completely don't hold water. If you test them and then test them again, there's not really a correlation of truth to them. And so a lot of personality tests are the same thing, where it's not a real test of personality, like how a school test isn't really a test of intelligence to a degree. And then an online test is going to be even worse, trying to just be clicking buttons. So don't believe what an online test tells you for sure. And that's why whatever you get on my combo class test, it's not about, oh, cat. Hey, Sage. Oh, Sage. Oh, I think he just wants to go out. It's not about if you get a good grade or not. That's not a measure of your intelligence or whatever. You can get a good grade by re-looking through it and re-watching episodes and thinking about it further later whenever you want to. I recommend trying to puzzle your way through my test and then look at the answer video later. The answer video will be on the bonus channel separate. You don't have to click it. So, and it'll be a week or two later anyway. So I recommend puzzling through it as long as you need, But not going to be a measure of your intelligence. Just like a personality test is not a measure of personality. And just like I highly doubt you could do a lot of these tests people are mentioning accurately online. So, yeah, to whoever said squirrel, that's what we're used to seeing in the background. It was a cat this time. But we do get a lot of squirrels in the main channel episodes, which there was a really fun one in the last one. So make sure you've caught the last main channel episode all about weird bases and stuff. And in that one, a lot of cool facts about bases and also a very great squirrel cameo. That is, I actually have it here. Da-da-da-da. Base 1010, which I just stuck in the title because we were talking about other bases and other titles. But it's really about all sorts of traits of bases. And 3 more episodes coming on here. So make sure you folks have watched all these at some point, because although this channel is more subscribers, this is where I do more content, this is the more polished, perfect content of what you need to what I hope people will want to digest and learn and see for fun. So, it's also sort of more of a creative project than this show. I put weird creativity into the things I hide in the episodes and the ways I design shots with my cameraman and stuff. So, make sure you've watched those. I'm going to wrap up the stream soon. So, leave any thoughts or comments you have in the chat, and I will be down to answer one or two. And I will have to do my one for the episode, mandatory for myself. Mention that you should all check out the Patreon sometime, because you will get your name on a whiteboard in the finale if you sign up for that sometime in the next couple weeks before mid-March. Before, let's say, March, before the test drops, let's say. And, or a few days after that, maybe. And you also get cool bonus footage and stuff. And some music from me and stuff. You should also catch me on the Discord, which you don't, if you can't afford the Patreon, there's also the Discord, which has a lot of cool chatting. People are talking about all kinds of cool stuff on there. And we got the Combo Class subreddit, which doesn't have too many posts yet, but there are some cool ones coming. So we're starting to grow that up. And let me see if anyone has anything to say. And I'm going to make myself big so I can look at the comments up here. Make myself huge. No. I'm going to make myself backwards again. No. So, lot of good comments. Thank you all for joining me. Someone mentioned Khan Academy. They are cool. I support their mission. And so, someone's asking, does joining college after 1 year degrade their base for learning math? I don't think necessarily. You could, the amount of math you've learned accumulates based on time and is not necessarily dependent on age. So you can put in that work at any point to catch up. And you can just spend extra work studying stuff regardless of your age. And I'm sure that you will catch up in various ways if you dedicate enough time. Really, you gotta have fun with it, and then you want to spend time on it. I have fun with math, so I just spend tons of time accidentally studying it. Can't help it accidentally. I'll be on my phone, texting someone, think of something I want to look up the definition of, end up on Wikipedia, end up down a rabbit hole, and then I'm like, oh shit, I'm studying again. So sometimes if you're just really into the subject, it helps. And hopefully what people are going to college for, they're really into. I did not like the college type of learning as much. That may be mentioned in my finale, or in the test episode, that I only went to 2 years of college. Someone said, what if they can't afford Patreon or Discord? The Discord is free. The Discord and subreddit, completely free. There's one section on the Discord for Patreon people that's private. That's for getting a better chance I answer you. But apart from one little private channel, there's tons of free channels on there. So the Patreon's the only one that costs money. Nobody's obligated to do it at all. It does really help. I'm transitioning out of my job, and I'll probably get emotional if I get too into this, but next week's my last week teaching music students who I've taught for years, and I'm quitting basically to focus on combo class. And me and my students, it's a sad thing to have to do, but it's what I really want in the long run, is to have time for combo class. And it's mildly because of some ads on videos and because of the growing Patreon more so, that I'm seeing a future in the channel and seeing like, all right, we're going to try this. We're going to try and dedicate all my time to combo class. And what that's going to mean is that in March, as I do a transition to the new grade, I'm going to have a super good schedule during grade -2, and a streaming schedule will come even a bit earlier, where at the beginning of March, I'll announce 2 days a week that will be steady streaming times, One of them will be about what I just did, like in my time, about 7 to 9 p.m., or maybe 6 to 8 p.m. or something like that, my time, but on a weekday, and it'll be a fixed time. And another will be like 10 hours before this, or 12 hours before this, in what's my morning. So people in different time zones get some stuff. Someone asked if I will answer a few more comments before I vanish. Does pi equal infinity? No. Pi has infinite decimal digits. That does not mean it's equal to infinity, because its size is still between 3 and 4. Someone said a cool puzzle game I can play on Steam. I don't really like computer games, to be honest. I don't hardly ever play computer games. So it's going to be hard to hook me on a recommendation for me playing a computer game if I'm not like hanging out with a friend who's doing it already. So I'm not going to pull up a computer game myself unless it sounds really, really interesting to me. But I want to design games sometime. So someday I'll work with programmers. I have a lot of ideas for cool games to design, ranging from little puzzles that I want to put on comboclass.org, which isn't anything yet, but I do own for later. And also sorts of games I want to do that are like inspired by these games I'm really nostalgic about. These are like one of the few types of games I would play on stream sometime, but I might do it on Twitch, so I don't care if a copyright strike happens, because I don't want that on this channel. But point and click adventure games that are little cartoons where you collect inventories and use those for puzzles, those I like. And whoever asked recently about that, I only stream on YouTube right now. I streamed on TikTok a few times when I was using that back in the day, but never really ended up doing that. So I only stream on here for now. I might have a day on Twitch to not care about copyright as much in the future, because I want to do more stuff for fun, of commentary on certain things, that I want to show videos, and I don't want to get this channel in trouble. I love this channel and my combo class channel. I love YouTube. If anyone from YouTube's watching, I will work with you, work with me. You know, don't get mad at the fire or anything, and I will work with your rules. I love you guys. YouTube, I grew up on loving YouTube, and I still do. It's, you know, the type of media I consume. So I like making my stuff on YouTube whenever it's a project I want to have permanently on there. In the future, what would be really awesome is when I can work with someone to cut down stuff like from Twitch into a shorter thing that is shorter for YouTube and is maybe on another channel, so I'm not as worried about copyright. I would see. In any case, I would stream on Twitch for the reason of being able to play random videos. And not that they're less strict about that necessarily, but that I wouldn't care if my Twitch account got taken down, and I would really care if this one got a strike. And someone asked, where's the Discord? It is linked in the description here. At least it should be. So in the description here, we have links to all the cool things I mentioned. And someone said you can stream simultaneously. I know you theoretically can. I need to look into the terms of service. Some platforms that breaks their terms of service, and I do want to stay chill on YouTube, so I'm not positive if they have that rule or not. But I don't know, maybe. I like YouTube. I'm not a tech guy, so I can figure out YouTube because I know YouTube. Still took me a minute to figure out the streaming part. Someday, hopefully, I'll have a tech person on my stream. They can figure out what apps it makes most sense to stream on. I can figure out what equation to put in the next episode. So I'm figuring all this out myself. Grade -1 out of the dirt, and you know, I can make YouTube work. Because believe it or not, I'm really not a tech guy. It might seem like a joke. I play up my clumsiness mildly sometimes, but I really am not good at tech stuff. Someone's recommending Michael Pen and Black Pen, Red Pen. I do know both of them. I do like both of them. To be honest, I have a hard time. It's, you know, in the modern era, it's hard to watch something that's so long of a lecture-like thing, kind of like this stream, that doesn't have as many changing visuals to demonstrate the things. And so while I really like those channels, they're a little bit chalkboardy for like, there's not many like cutscenes or visuals or stuff. And I still really like them. They're awesome. I would work with them. But I do know them, and I wish that they had more like concentrated videos. They were like, they're mathematical, like they're obviously super intelligent people. Their mathematical skill, trying to make a video that's like a little work of art as opposed to just a lesson. Not that, maybe they do, I haven't seen all of it. You know, they are really cool. So I don't mean that stuff as a diss when I give critiques. So, and yeah, someone says if you get banned on Twitch, then you get in trouble showing up on anything. And I don't think I would get banned for playing some random video games and doing commentary on some clips. I think it would end up being free use, fair use. But I don't want any sort of strike or trouble on this channel. I don't even want a risk of it. So that's why I'm carefuler what I show on here. But on there, I wouldn't care as much if I got like some little strike or whatever. So, in any case, I will keep you all posted when those updates come, when the streaming days hit and stuff. For now, like I said, catch me for more details and chatting on the Discord. Catch me for more bonus footage, which more will be coming very soon of some behind-the-scenes stuff I was shooting on the Patreon. And catch me on the subreddit if you use that. Post some random cool memes or thoughts there. And love all the comments. I can't answer any more right now because I should go. It's been more than 2 hours. But love you all for joining me. Hope to see you again in whatever form of video or thing I put out tomorrow, most likely. Very likely tomorrow we'll have either a stream or a bonus video or a short. So we'll see which form I get you guys with. And then the one I know is coming is next midweek around Wednesday or Thursday will be the next main channel episode. So, catch you all again next time. You are awesome. You are my combo lords. Love you all. And that is all.